So today we're diving into a story that honestly feels like it was ripped straight out of a Hollywood movie script. We're talking about the deeply human, genuine rags-to-riches tale of one of the absolute most famous athletes on the planet, Neymar Jr. Now obviously, we all know the dazzling footwork and we definitely know the massive headlines, but the actual grounded journey of how he got to that point, it is absolutely fascinating. Let's get into it.
I want you to just think about this question for a second. How on earth do you surpass Pelé? I mean, for 60 years, Pelé reigned as Brazil's outright leading international marksman. His record of 77 goals for the national team seemed completely 100% untouchable. So how could anyone possibly eclipse the ultimate legend of Brazilian football?
Well, to understand that, we have to look at the mind-blowing contrast between where his story begins and where it ultimately peaks. We're talking about the massive gap between a kid who grew up sharing a single mattress with his family, eventually living next to a literal city dumping ground in Jardim Gloria, and a man who commanded a €222 million transfer fee, becoming the single most expensive athlete in the history of the sport. That incredible leap from point A to point B is exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Part 1. Origins of a Genius. From Jardim Gloria to the futsal court.
Okay, so Neymar was born in Mogi das Cruzes, just north of Sao Paulo. And early on, let me tell you, his family faced some truly severe financial struggles. His father's own football career was tragically cut short by this awful car crash that resulted in a broken hip. Times were incredibly tight. As the family grew with the arrival of his sister, they actually had to move in with his grandparents in São Vicente. At one point, the entire family was sharing just one single mattress. Eventually, needing a bit more space, they moved to Jardim Gloria in Praia Grande. But back in the early 2000s, this neighborhood wasn't developed at all. Neymar's dad described it as a literal dumping ground where the whole city threw its garbage. But this harsh, deeply impoverished environment was exactly the crucible that shaped his early survival instincts. And it's wild, because that environment directly birthed his entirely unique playing style. So, futsal is Brazil's super fast-paced, indoor version of football. It's played on hard cement or parquet courts. A talent scout named Betinho actually first spotted a 6-year-old Neymar running wild through the stands during a beach soccer match. And he was absolutely terrified the kid was going to take a tumble and suffer an ugly fracture. So he quickly got Neymar onto the futsal court. But because the game is played on such unforgiving hard surfaces, a young, super skinny Neymar had to develop this legendary agility, hyper-fast motor coordination, and wild creativity just to avoid getting tackled and hurt by the bigger players. So yeah, that harsh environment literally forged his evasive, magical style of play.
Part 2. The Boy Wonder, rising through the Santos Academy.
Now this quote right here, this literally says it all. Whispers of Neymar's phenomenal talent were spreading like wildfire. Zito, who was a 2-time World Cup winner and an absolute icon of the legendary Santos club, went down to watch the kid play futsal. Well, Zito was so blown away that he marched straight to the Santos club president and demanded they sign the 10-year-old right then and there. The president pointed out a tiny little problem. Santos didn't actually have an under-10 team. Zito's response? So create one. I mean, that is sheer, undeniable talent, right? Forcing a legendary club to invent a brand new age group just so they can get your signature on a piece of paper.
From there, his rise was just breathtakingly fast. By age 10, he's already signing autographs as a local TV personality. At 13, he actually spent 20 days on trial at Real Madrid, and they pulled out all the stops to sign him. But in a super rare move, he chose to stay home at Santos. He finally made his professional debut in 2009 as the skinny 17-year-old kid. Over the next few years, he completely revitalized Santos, leading them to their most successful era since Pelé's retirement, snagging the Copa do Brasil in the massive Copa Libertadores. He scored an unbelievable 138 goals in 230 appearances, making him the undisputed biggest star that club had seen in decades.
To really wrap our heads around just how long Neymar has been dominating the global stage, we kind of have to look at what the world was like when he scored his first international goal for Brazil. This was August 2010. He scores a header just 28 minutes into his debut against the USA. Now put this into perspective. At that time, James Cameron's Avatar had just become the highest-grossing film. The very first Apple iPad had only been out for a few months. And Instagram? A platform where Neymar currently boasts an astonishing 231 million followers, which is more than NASA or LeBron James, by the way. Instagram hadn't even launched yet. The world literally looked entirely different when his international career kicked off.
Part 3. Surpassing Pelé and Ronaldo, the statistical breakdown.
It is honestly staggering to see his name sitting officially right at the very top of this list, above the absolute titans of Brazilian football. For decades, it was just assumed that maybe phenomenal strikers like Romario or Ronaldo might eventually catch Pelé's 77 goals. But they didn't. Instead, it was Neymar, a player initially thought by some to be way too fragile for international football, who actually eclipsed that 60-year record. He now officially sits at number 1 with 79 goals for Brazil.
But, we've got to look at this objectively too. While Neymar absolutely leads in overall goals, the World Cup stage is where Ronaldo's legacy still casts a really massive shadow. Neymar has a totally respectable 8 goals in 13 World Cup matches, sure, but no World Cup trophies to his name. He did, however, secure the one crown Brazil was historically missing, Olympic gold in 2016. He even scored the fastest Olympic goal in history at just 14 seconds, which is crazy. Contrast that with Ronaldo, though, who scored 15 goals in 19 World Cup appearances and played a crucial role in bringing home 2 World Cup trophies for Brazil. So the overarching numbers, they belong to Neymar. But that ultimate biggest stage, it still belongs to Ronaldo. Over on the club level, though, Neymar's milestones are just mind-blowing.
Across his time at Barcelona and PSG, he netted 177 goals in 274 games. That's a ridiculous 0.64 goals per game. He holds the record for the most Champions League assists by any Brazilian, with 24. He joins this incredibly elite four-man list of players to ever score over 100 goals for 3 different top-division clubs: Santos, Barcelona, and PSG. His influence spilled way off the pitch too. I mean, he was the only footballer named on Time's 100 Most Influential People's list in 2017, with his profile written by David Beckham, no less. All of these staggering stats paved the way for a truly historic move.
Part 4. The historic PSG transfer. The move that broke football.
222 million euros. Just let that massive number sink in for a second. This was the staggering release clause in Neymar's Barcelona contract. When he renewed his contract, this number was meant to be completely, entirely unreachable. A hands-off sign, basically. But Paris Saint-Germain, they looked at that and decided that the commercial impact of bringing Neymar in, we're talking the shirt sales, the crazy sponsorships, the ticket revenues, would make this completely unprecedented investment worth it.
And the way this whole deal went down over 3 super tense weeks in the summer of 2017, it's just wild. Step 1, it all started with a simple phone call. Neymar's camp reached out to the PSG chairman, basically signaling, hey, he wants his own team, he wants to be the main man, and he wants to win the Ballon d'Or. Step 2, super agent Pini Zahavi stepped in and brokered a massive 5-year deal worth 30 million euros net per season. Step 3, then the tug of war really began. Over in Paris, his close friend Dani Alves was heavily lobbying him to join PSG. Back in Barcelona, Messi and Suarez are begging him to stay. And crucially, his father, who heavily influences his career, urged him to remain in Spain. But then, step 4, in a super rare move, Neymar actually defied his father's advice. His family checked into a luxurious Parisian hotel, and just like that, the biggest transfer in football history was signed, sealed, and delivered.
Part 5. Beyond the pitch, the Instituto Neymar Jr. Now here is where we really see the full circle nature of his hero's journey. Because Neymar didn't just donate a bunch of money from afar, he actually returned to Jardim Gloria in Praia Grande. Right there in the exact neighborhood that used to be a literal city dumping ground, the place where he grew up, he and his family built a massive 8,400 square meter nonprofit civil association. He knew firsthand that the kids growing up there faced the exact same harsh realities he did, but without the support system or the once-in-a-generation talent that he had. That facility directly assists 3,000 children and adolescents between the ages of 7 and 17. 3,000! By providing education, culture, sports, and health resources to these kids, the Institute creates this amazing ripple effect that ultimately impacts over 10,000 people in the wider community, including their families. He literally transformed a former dumping ground into a massive beacon of hope and opportunity.
So, that brings us to right now, the present, and of course, the future. He has conquered club football, absolutely secured his legacy in Santos, shattered the national goal-scoring record, and completely transformed his childhood community. But that ultimate prize still remains. Neymar has stated himself that the 2026 World Cup is his target, even calling it his last mission. So the question we leave you with today is this. As he recovers from injury and chases the one major trophy that has completely eluded him, what is the final chapter of this incredible story going to look like? Will the 2026 World Cup be Neymar's ultimate crowning glory? Think about that. Thank you so much for joining us for this explainer, and we will see you next time.